Welcome back to another episode of RNT Fitness Radio. A big thank you from Akash and I as always for listening in, for subscribing, for leaving us feedback. We always take it on board. Let's go straight into this one. So this week we have an IFBB pro bodybuilder, Troy Brown, on the line, who is actually somebody that I met probably about 8 or 9 years ago. I was training out of a small gym called the Forest Gym, which is local to me. I was prepped for my first show by a guy called Harold Marillier, and it turns out that Troy was also being coached by him at the same time, and working together, they actually managed to turn Troy pro. He then went to the US and competed as a pro, and then moved over to Canada to pursue some sponsorship deals. I don't want to give too much away from the podcast, but you're going to hear that things didn't quite go to plan for Troy. He's ended up sort of injured. The sponsorships didn't quite work out. He's had some tough times, as he's going to mention on the podcast. But he goes into sort of his mindset as to how he's turned things around, what he's now focusing on, what's important to him, his mindset now. He talks about his current coaching business, his podcast that he has going on, which I really, really would suggest that you guys try listening to. And the importance of sort of having mentors in his life and people that he kind of can look up to, follow in their footsteps, and listen to them, take their advice on board and execute. And it seems like things are really turning around for him. So this was a really cool podcast to record. I'm sure many of you are going to be able to empathize and sort of resonate with what Troy's saying. So I'll stop waffling on and I'll let you guys get straight into it. Okay, let's kick this off then. So give the listeners a run through as to who Troy Brown is, who he was, where he's at now. Give us the lowdown.
Well, thank you for having me first and foremost. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you guys, especially you Brits. Us Brits need to stick together. Being out here in North America, it's a little lonely sometimes, and you miss the accent, so to speak. But yeah, as you know, my name's Troy Brown, and originally I'm born and bred in Hackney, East London. And I had aspiration of becoming a pro soccer player. I say soccer player because that's the terminology out here in North America, but wanted to play pro football, was obsessed with football, had crappy grades at school, was told I was dumb, stupid, all that kind of thing. All I wanted to do was play pro football. That's all I wanted to do. And it ended up manifesting. It came true. And played for a team called Nottingham Forest. And then at the time, they released me after a couple of years and put me on loan to Northampton Town. And when I was with Northampton Town, they put me on a banana diet, actually to gain some weight so I could go back to Nottingham Forest and play in the Premier League. So long story short, I was about 143 pounds at the time. I ended up putting on about 20 pounds of muscle in about 4 months. Fell in love with weight training, fell in love with the philosophy and the nutrition concept, and ended up walking away from football. My dad was completely devastated. He didn't speak to me for about 9 months. And that was bragging rights for him in the pub, right? He wanted his son to play pro football. So got into bodybuilding, just absolutely fell in love with it. Started training for about 3 years. Went to Venice and did the Gold's Gym thing. Met all Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier, Aaron Baker, all my heroes, Lee Priest. And that was in 99. That's when I really started thinking, you know what, I might actually start competing. Came back to England 2 years later, did my first show, Stars of Tomorrow. In 2001, I believe I placed second and qualified for the Britain, which is nationals, and then got second in the first timer category. And that was really the sort of my launch of my career as a bodybuilder. And then I really started, knuckling down, met Harold, as you know very well, as that's where we met. Yeah. And I met H in, when was that? In 2002. I actually watched him when he turned pro. And I ended up going up to him and asking him if he could ever help me one day. And he said, yeah, absolutely. So we teamed up in, I believe it was in 2003. And we did really, really well together. Harold is like a big brother to me. He's like, he was my mentor in bodybuilding. I looked up to him because he was a pro. I saw how he lived the lifestyle, how he brought all his food everywhere, how he conducted himself. He was
and his little fanny pack that he has on 24/7.
Oh, I remember that, man. He got me wearing one too. See, law of association. You are who you surround yourself with. So yeah, I wore the fanny pack as well. We call it the bum bag.
That's it.
And it was just so cool to have a mentor like Harold. He taught me the ins and outs of the supplementation, the super supplements, and it really showed me another way out to train. So he just took me under his wing, and then we were just a perfect team. And then we ended up really starting to do well, started placing well. Won my first overall title in 2005, the Gravesend Classic. And before that, in 2004, I actually had a really bad year at nationals at Britain. I ended up qualifying, and I placed second, qualified, ended up doing the middleweights, and got down to about 173 pounds, lost a ton of muscle, went to nationals to Britain and got absolutely annihilated, finished dead last. Mm-hmm. And I remember driving home, crying my eyes out, thinking, do I quit or do I carry on and literally take my off season and my training to a whole new level? So I chose the latter and never looked back. Really sat down with Harold. We mapped out a game plan. Long story short, guys, ended up from nationals when I placed dead last. I was 173 pounds. 1 year later, I skipped the light heavies and went straight to heavyweight, and then placed fourth in the heavyweights, and where I competed against Zach Khan. Just before the Britain in 2005, I competed against Paul Delahaye, who ended up winning nationals that year 3 weeks before, and I beat him at the qualifier, and then he beat me at nationals. So that's when I really started to believe I could turn pro. Yep. It wasn't until 2005, and then once we finished fourth at nationals, I was over the moon, competing against Zach Khan, these big names. And that's when I really thought I could do something. And then 2006 off season came round. We did some insane training at Harold's gym, at Forest Gym. He'll probably tell you all the stories. And I remember being on it.
I used to watch the workouts.
Oh, it was nasty. But I remember one time when I was getting ready for the Britain in 2006, and I remember Zach was the main threat to me at the time. And I remember having the bar on my back. We were doing walking lunges outside the gym on the hill.
Yeah.
And
I get my clients
up there.
Yeah. Harold was throwing up. There was a couple other guys were throwing up. I put the bar on my back, and I remember just shouting, Zach Khan. He doesn't even know this. So, those were some of the stories at the gym, and then obviously went to the Britain, got in the best shape of my life, and the rest is history. Beat Flex Lewis and beat Zach Khan in the heavies, and it was that's when I really thought, okay, I'm going to really be this big name and really start to do something in the IFBB and turn pro, which was my dream. Yeah. And it didn't really pan out. I moved to Canada, seeking the sponsorship and the coverage on the magazines, because I knew that in Canada, a lot of the supplement companies were based in Canada. So I thought, you know what? I met a Canadian girl. I moved over and got really sidetracked in another business, ended up walking away from bodybuilding altogether, which is probably one of my biggest regrets. And then got involved in network marketing, did that for 6 years, learned sales and all that kind of thing. Ended up coming back in 2015, wanted to make a comeback, and everything was going great. I went from, when I retired in 2011 and I walked away from bodybuilding, I went from 250 pounds back down to 172 pounds. I became a vegan. I did CrossFit and lost all my muscle. And then 2015 came around. We split up. My ex and I, my ex-fiance, and we split up, and I decided, I'm going to give bodybuilding another go. Went from 172 pounds back up to 250 pounds in about a year and a half. Everything was going great, till one day in the gym, I'm doing close grip bench press, just with 225. It was my last rep, guys. It was my last set, and I tore my pec, and I knew right there my career was done. And so here I am today, still training, working around the injury, and working and helping training other people, and with my business Apex Physique. So that's where I am right now. That's kind of the cliff notes of the Troy Brown story, so to speak.
Okay. So first off, sorry to hear about the pec. That sucks. What were you about to say, Akash?
I was going to say, so the move to Canada was purely for the supplement companies, or was there a reason?
It was. Yeah, I was talking to Flex Lewis, and he just moved to the States, and he said, why not move to North America? So I just chose Canada. That's where she was from, my ex at the time. So I just thought, it makes sense. That's where a lot of the exposure is, so to speak, for being a pro bodybuilder. It made sense to move out there. I got a contract with Muscle Tech, and then I left Muscle Tech a year later, and then got a really good contract with Allmax. So it was really starting to take off. Got my front cover Flex magazine. And, things happen, you just get sidetracked and you get involved in things maybe you shouldn't have at the time, but everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it's there to serve you. And that was my journey. So, I don't regret, walking away from the sport. And I think getting injured in 2015 was just a sign that this was not for me. I think something bigger and better was coming for me that was literally waiting in the wings while I got injured, which I believe is my business, which is Apex Physique. So, Yeah, and it's allowed me to get into podcasting like you guys. So I believe everything happens for a reason. It sucks at the time when you tear a muscle, and it was all because of this right shoulder. I actually tore my tricep in 2010 and didn't even know it. So that was the culprit when I tore my tricep. Right. And I didn't know at the time. So when I was under the bar doing those close grip bench presses, the pec went, and I knew right there and then the huge gap in my pec. At that level, maybe as an amateur you can get away with it, but at a pro level you can't.
Yeah, you're scrutinized.
Did you compete on the pro level much?
Yeah, I did 4 pro shows. I did my pro debut was in 2007, a year after I turned pro. I did the Montreal Classic. I placed 10th in that show, my first pro show. And then I did 3 weeks later, I flew to California, went to Milos's gym, did the big magazine shoot for Flex magazine, then stayed on my diet. 2 weeks later, did the Spanish Grand Prix and placed top 6 there. Just missed out from an Olympia qualification. So, and then I got nominated for Pro Rookie of the Year, me, Kai Green, and Desmond Miller, which was pretty cool. So that was for the Flex Magazine Awards. So it was a real good honor and a privilege to be, amongst those greats like Kai Green and Desmond Miller. And then I moved to Canada. Really wanted to, pursue the career and push my name out more and get known in the States. And then what happened after that? I got the contracts with All Max, and before that was Muscle Tech. And yeah, it was just unfortunate, that things happened, and I got involved in the business. Maybe I should have focused and kept all my energy and put all my eggs into one basket and focused on bodybuilding. But that's in the past, and I can't change it.
Would you say that's the difference between, say, placing 8th, 10th, and then the Kai Greens who are more towards the top? Is it the ability to put all your eggs in one basket, or do you think it's another thing? What do you put it down to? Because you were surrounded by a lot of top bodybuilders, right?
That's a really good question. You know what? I think when you're an amateur, you play the card of working so hard to get your name out there, and you keep competing year after year to get known as an amateur. So you kind of create a name for yourself in England. And then when you move to the States, if that's your goal, then you sort of have to start all over again. So you really have to pay your dues, and you have to really market yourself, and you have to spend a lot of time on social media. And I think for me at the time, just placing really, really well in Europe, and then I actually competed against Phil Heath in my 3rd pro show, which was the Ironman Pro. Got to see Phil Heath up close and personal, and that was a huge eye opener, because I remember seeing Phil Heath backstage, and we were literally 2 yards away from each other, and he's with Hani Rambod, his coach. This was in 2008. So I'm watching him, and I'm thinking, what's the fuss about? Why is he called The Gift? Yeah. And I remember we went backstage, we started pumping up, and I remember he hit a shot. He hit a most muscular in front of Hani. And honestly, guys, my jaw just dropped. I've never seen a physique transform like his did. It was like the Transformer movie. He's everything just popped. And then when he turned around and did a double bicep, it was like, now I know why this guy is called The Gift. And he ended up winning that show. I didn't actually place in that show. I think I was in a mix of Tony Freeman, Troy Owls, King Kamali, Gustavo Bedell, all these big names were competing, and I just I didn't even get a look. I didn't even get a mention. I came in at 200, and my heaviest ever, I came in at 247 pounds at 5'6", which is a lot of weight.
Yeah, say you're my height.
5'6", yeah.
250 are your height?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the heaviest. I wasn't lean enough, and that's probably, I could have been a little bit tighter, but I did see guys in front of me, no disrespect, I'm not going to mention their names, that were, still fat. They were still holding water. They were still had fat on their glutes, and they were placing ahead of me, and I was a lot sharper than them. So I knew then I just had to do my time and be consistent and just keep working on getting my face out there, because it is, unfortunately, bodybuilding is a political sport, and even more so at that level.
100%.
Yeah.
Let's just rewind a little bit back to where I first met you, which is the Forest Gym in Crawley. So for most of the listeners already know this. I live in Crawley, and we've got, now we've got probably 15 gyms. But back then you only had maybe 2 or 3 big commercial gyms. And then the serious gym to go to if you wanted results was the Forest Gym, which is in a forest. It's in Tilgate Forest. It's a little old World War II hut that's been turned into a gym. There's no air conditioning. So, in the summer, you just kind of prop the door open at the back and you take your top off if you're hot. In the winter, stick a hoodie on. And that's where I met you. You were being coached by Harold, who actually helped prep me for my first show. And I was up there last week actually training a client, and bumped into him and got talking to him. So just give us like a lowdown as to what it was like being coached by Harold. Because
like I said earlier, yeah. Sorry.
It was with Harold that you turned pro. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Correct. Yeah. Harold is he has such a gift of coaching athletes, and he listens. And I think I knew when I worked with Harold that it's going to take some time for him to figure out my body. But once he figured it out, it was like lights out. We really knew that my body responded well to carbs. So a low day of carbs for me while I was dieting was, anywhere between 200 to 300 grams. That was a low day. On a high day, it was anywhere in the region of, 800 to 600 grams. And that was like even 2 weeks out from a show. So, and when I won the Britain and I won my pro card that year for the show, when I got ready for that show and I did my contest prep, I didn't do any cardio. So he kind of knew my metabolism really, really well. Unfortunately, one of my biggest regrets is when I moved to North America, I went with, the Chris Acetos and the Honey Rambods to politically make an impact and get my name out there.
Oops, yeah.
What I should have done, in looking back in hindsight, is stayed with Harold and stayed in England and just kept working. Very similar to what James, what's the guy's name? The guy that turned pro last year.
James Hollingshead?
Yes. You can see what he's doing, and Nathan and guys like that, and Dorian, they stayed in England, and that's what I should have done. That's probably my biggest regret, because unfortunately I didn't have the backing when I moved over. Flex Lewis did have the way to contract even before he even turned pro, so he had some backing behind him. So for me, moving to Canada was extremely tough financially, because I couldn't work because I was on the visitor's visa. And as you know, being a pro bodybuilder, you've got to have money coming in. Oh, and it was tough, guys. Yeah, there was one when I competed at the Europa, my last pro show, the Europa in Dallas. I didn't use hardly anything for that show. If it's okay for me to talk about that on the show.
We're open here, green light. So for those,
I didn't use any growth hormone. My literally, because I couldn't afford it. And I literally couldn't even afford my plane ticket to go to Dallas to compete at Europa. So it was hard. And you know what stress does to the body, right? You don't look your best when you're stressed out. So at that level, you got to have all your T's crossed, all your I's dotted if you want to make an impact as a pro. So you can't really have any anxiety and high levels of stress going into a big show, especially when you're competing against these big names.
What's the biggest difference between competing as an amateur and a pro? And let's talk one sort of like how the show day itself feels, the atmosphere and stuff. Are people more friendly or less friendly? Is there more animosity at the pro shows? And then let's also talk taboo, and let's talk about the drug side of it. Did anything escalate when you turned pro? Was there suddenly, you see people compete as an amateur and then they turn pro and suddenly they had 30 pounds within like a year. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, I think when I turned pro, you think about the size game right away. Unfortunately, for me as a pro bodybuilder, I did best when I have aesthetics and I keep my waist small and I've got nice lines and good symmetry. I'm never going to be a mass monster. Unfortunately, when I turned pro, I wanted to put on some size. And unfortunately, at my height, when you put on size at 5'6", where does it go? It goes straight to your waistline. Yeah. So I did notice my waist did really, really blow up. So, and that's my biggest regret. I should have kept working with Harold and we would have kept things in check. But I went with, the big names, the big trainers out there. And by the way, they're not expensive. When I worked with the big names, they charge anywhere between, that at the time, this was in 2008, anywhere between $6,000 to $7,000 for USD for a 16-week prep, as an example. But I will say this: the majority of the pros I met, I have not met one pro that was a prick. All the top pros I met were really nice people. I think at that level you have to be, because you are in a public eye. You need to be a good person. But all the pros that I spoke to and that were helping me as I was coming up were amazing. People like Dennis Wolf, people like Gustavo Bedell, Tony Freeman has been a huge impact in my career. Obviously, Flex Lewis, Zach Khan, John Hodson from England, from the American guys. Jay Cutler was a huge influence. He helped me out a lot too. So, most of the guys, honestly, they're really good people. They really, really are. And they have tremendous work ethic and they deserve to have more, income and more sponsorship, because I personally feel right now bodybuilding, it isn't dying, but what seems to be having more energy and focus is the classic and the men's physique. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, funnily enough, that was it's one of the questions I've got down actually was, what do you think of the current state of the sport in general?
Well, I think everything has, I think everything has to evolve, and everything needs to grow, right? I always say to my clients, you're either moving forwards or you're going backwards. You can't stand still. And that's the purpose of the universe, is to grow. And I think that's evolution. So the sport has to grow. And unfortunately, you do have to bring in other categories, and everybody wants to make money. So I can see that side of it as well. But from a pure bodybuilding standpoint, it seems to not have the appeal as it used to have. I think the golden era of bodybuilding was, the 90s. Yeah. I think that was our age. And when we were, looking at the sport, it was just like, to be a pro bodybuilder was like being a Hollywood actor. It was really cool. Yeah. I think everybody had that aspiration of becoming a pro, especially if you compete as an amateur. So for me, I'm not in it as much now. I kind of just have a bird's eye view, so to speak, of the sport. And it definitely seems to me that classic physique seems to be more appealing, and men's physique seems to be more appealing to the masses. Unfortunately, nobody wants to walk around at 250 pounds, ripped and shredded. That's unattainable. But what is attainable is these classic physique and men's physique. That look, it seems to be more attracted to the average person that is a spectator looking at the sport.
Yeah, I think it's kind of bittersweet in that these new divisions have brought, perhaps, and with social media as well, have perhaps brought more people into fitness in general, which obviously is only a good thing. The downside, the drawback now, though, I find, is that everyone wants to be a competitor. Yeah. And you get so many people, in the middle of prepping for a show, they haven't even stepped on stage, and they're changing their Instagram names to, IFBB athlete or bikini athlete. Yeah, you haven't even stepped on stage. You're dieting just like the girl next to you on the treadmill.
Absolutely. That's well said.
What I'm seeing a lot is these girls, I say girls, and that's because I'm seeing this more common with them, is deciding they want to do a show, getting into it, getting about 4 to 6 weeks out, realizing that they just don't have kind of the mental fortitude to do what it takes in those final stages. They pull out. And of course, they start blaming eating disorders and, physique shows give you this, give you that. And that's what's kind of given it a bit of a clouded name at the moment. Have you had any experience with that?
Absolutely.
My point is, what I think is happening is girls are going on Instagram. They're seeing other people compete and do shows. They think it's easy, because it's now accessible on social media, but they don't really know what it takes, to get to that. That condition that you need to stand on stage, look proud, look like you deserve to be there. There is some suffering involved. And when the going gets tough, they binge, they give up, and then they blame the sport giving them an eating disorder.
It's so true. I think we live in a society where we want instant gratification. We live in a microwave society. So a lot of these people that are competing, they expect to win shows tomorrow. Yeah. And you got to do your time. You have to do your time. It takes, as you guys know, it takes years and years and years to build muscle. You have to do your time, and you have to get your face known. So you have to play the game. So to get disappointed at your placing, okay, I can understand that, but why not turn that into, some type of leverage in the gym where it will motivate you, inspire you to work even harder and to stick to your nutrition year round and to be more consistent? Because that's what I did when I finished dead last at nationals. I used that as leverage.
Lunges up a hill, shouting your competitor.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to use it as fuel. You got to use it as motivation to work harder. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing now is with social media now, it's made things a lot easier. There doesn't seem to be that work ethic. I mean, people are probably going to slam me for saying that, but I think when we were competing, it was all about getting your face and getting your picture on that gym wall. Meant everything. That was the key for me. When I made the decision, when I walked into MuscleWorks in 2001, I said, I'm not going to put a picture on that wall until I turn pro. And I stuck to that promise. But it's a big deal. Now it seems to have lost that appeal now. And now, no disrespect, there seem to be handing out pro cards like candy now, especially in North America. And I love it when you have one show, one chance, one time per year to win that pro card. And that's when all the athletes, the best of the best. Yeah, when all the athletes come together, the best of the best come together. And that's what it's all about. You one show, one time, not multiple shows where you have a chance of winning a pro card or a second pro card, or they're giving you a pro card because you maybe play second. I would rather win an overall title and win it the proper way where I compete against the best. People like the Flex Lewises and the Zach Kahns as an example.
100%. I think the two issues at the moment is, one, like you've said, they're giving pro cards out like candy. And two, over here in the UK, outside of the UK BFF and IFBB, in the other federations, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, they're called like Pure Elite, Miami Pro and all this. They're now creating so many different categories so that it's now like a participation event. It's like you're guaranteed a trophy. I mean, this is embarrassing. I hope she's not listening. I'm not going to name her, obviously. But there's a local girl that's competed 3 or 4 times in the same federation, has always got on stage looking fat or chubby, should I say. Okay, she looks, if you saw her in clothes in the street, she doesn't look overweight. But you put her on stage and she's the one that stands out. She's still got cellulite on her legs. And this isn't me being an asshole, by the way, guys. This is just, it is what it is. If you put on stage, you're there to be judged. She's walking on stage and she's jiggling. Anyway, so the last show she does, she doesn't place, of course, because she can't. Doesn't look like anything like the other girls. And then she puts on Instagram about 3 weeks later a photo of a trophy that the federation, because she's competed with 4 years in a row and they know her name through Instagram, they'd actually sent her a trophy through the post and made a new category for her and gave her first place. Okay, so she's been given a first place trophy through the fucking post in a category that didn't exist. And then she got told that she's now the face of the new category, a softer look. And she thinks it's a good thing. And I'm reading this like, if that got sent to me, if I competed and I was too fat and I didn't place, and then 3 weeks later, the federation made a new category and put my face on it for social media, that's saying I'm fat. I wasn't good enough to compete in the category that I want to. And this is what they're doing now. Is they're formulating new categories so that everyone can fit in. Rather than, I want to be a bodybuilder. I don't look like one right now. So I'm going to train my ass off for the next 5 to 10 years so that I do look like one. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to create categories to fit everybody.
I think at the end of the day, I think you hit the nail on the head. It really is. It's all about money. And I think creating all these new categories is just to put more bums in seats,
100%.
More spectators, more money for the promoters, right? So, and I'm a businessman, so I don't blame them for going down this road. But at the end of the day, you got to look at the true essence of the sport. Like, what is bodybuilding? And it looks as though they're trying to push the mainstream. Will it ever go mainstream? Who knows? Maybe with Dwayne Johnson helping out and using his, pull and his expertise and his, his reach and what he has. I mean, the guy is extremely famous and he seems to, a lot of people knows a lot of influential people in the industry. So it looks as though they're trying to put bodybuilding on the map, so to speak, on some type of maybe US ESPN type of show. I don't know, but yeah, I agree with you, man. It's sad, Adam, that is happening. But I saw another category the other day, and please, if people are listening to me right now, I mean this, at the bottom of my heart, and I'm trying to be honest and transparent here. But they had another category out here in Canada called men's wellness. So it looks as though, and no disrespect, it looks as though people can just literally don't diet. You can just get a bit of tan on and walk on stage with a pair of shorts and compete. And so there's no sacrifice, there's no discipline involved, unfortunately, with these classes. So you can kind of just, cheat on your diet. There's no price you have to pay. And as I said earlier, there's no discipline and there's no sacrifice. So I just think right now there's a huge shift in the sport. I think they're trying to figure things out, but it's a very, very slippery slope. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, it started off, when they first introduced physique and bikini, okay, it's bringing more people in. But now, as we both said, giving out pro cards really easy, creating loads and loads of classes, and you're just diluting, the elite in the sport, the bodybuilders, the ones that really, you're just kind of diluting the whole thing. So,
well, I actually like the I think the classic classic physique.
I like the
I
classic.
think I would have liked to have tried that myself when I was competing. I think that's a great division. I feel that could probably be very, very popular because I know Arnold loves it. I think he's a big advocate of the classic physique, right?
Yeah, small waistline, big back and shoulders, shredded.
Yeah.
I like that look too. Unfortunately, it's just all the other parts that come with it. Anyway, moving on from that, so we're not so bitter. What made you? Sorry, I was about to ask what made you transition to where you're at now with the Apex physique, but obviously it's the injury. What's got you into the podcasting game?
Well, I think when you reach the age of 40, you start thinking, about legacy. I have a son as well, and you start thinking about, I spent so many years, as you know, being so selfish. Bodybuilding, let's be honest, is an extremely selfish sport. And it's all about me, 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 me. What can I get? What can I get? And now when I walked away, it's about trying to give. It's seeing what I can give. Maybe some of the stories that I've been through, all the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations, all the adversity, all the ridicule and stuff like that. Maybe I could use those stories as leverage to inspire people to make a shift, maybe to transform their body. So the idea for the podcast was something that I had for 3 years. I'm a big advocate of Think and Grow Rich, the book Napoleon Hill, and the chapter on persistence. So that's kind of where the idea of the show came from. And I just love success stories. I love the rags to riches stories where people go through shit and they go through adversity, very similar to The Pursuit of Happiness with Chris Gardner. That story where he goes through the shit, he's homeless, but he's able to turn it all around. Those stories empower me. So I thought, why not leverage these stories and put them into a podcast format that can inspire the listeners to make a shift? Because if they're going through shit and they hear their peers going through shit, then that's a sign that if they're going through it and they can succeed, then I can do it too. So even though it's a cliche, I really feel that my show could, really be, a driving force in terms of allowing people to win and to achieve success, and to understand that success doesn't happen overnight. Like some of these competitors think, you got to do your freaking time, and you got to put in the work, and you got to be disciplined, and you got to sacrifice. I think everybody wants to be a bodybuilder. Everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants to have abs. Everybody wants to have 21-inch arms, but nobody wants to do the fucking work anymore. Excuse my language.
No, go for it.
And that's what I'm saying. That's why I see all these kids messaging me. They want, what can I take for this? What supplement can I take for this? What steroids can I do for this? And I said, well, you haven't even put in 5 years of training yet under your belt naturally. And this is what I'm saying. We live in this microwave society where nobody wants to do the fucking work anymore. And it really infuriates me, because that's what bodybuilding is about. It's work. It's not sit on your butt and chill, watch Netflix at home and eat potato chips. You got to do the work. You got to be diligent, and it's 365. There's no break. It's every single day of the year. And I speak to a lot of these guys who I'm working with, and I'm telling them, the physique is built in the off season. And what they do, they go missing for months on end. They go to barbecues, they drink beer, and they eat like shit. And then they'll message me, 2 weeks before they start their diet. All right, I'm ready to rock now. And they've missed 6-7 months of off season. And that's where the athlete is built. And that's what we're trying to tell these physique athletes, that there's no break. There's no expiration date as a bodybuilder. You've got to keep doing it day in, day out. And that's how you become a champion. But unfortunately, everybody wants, their cake to eat and eat it too. You have to work. You got to have discipline, and you got to have no regrets, and you got to put in the work. I mean, that's how I became a champion. That's how I saw Flex Lewis. I saw how he did it. He did it exactly the same work, exactly the same way.
So Troy, just on a different note, you said you were flat broke. You were really struggling financially. A couple of years ago. What was the biggest mindset shift that you had to kind of get yourself out of that and to take yourself to where you are now, where you're doing pretty well?
It was really hard, honestly, and I'm still battling with it now. All I think about now is I have a few mentors that are coaching me, and all they say is just keep giving, just keep providing value, and you'll be taken care of. So that's all I've been really dedicating, devoting to the last 2 years is to keep giving without the mindset of wanting something in return. So once I got that wrapped around my head, because I believe as a pro bodybuilder, you get you get a lot of things. You get things like you might get, supplement companies sending you stuff. And, it's a very ego-driven sport, as you well know. And it does fuel the ego. And it feels really good when someone wants to take a picture with you. But when that's all said and done, the only way you're going to get ahead, the only way you're going to do well in life and to succeed financially is by helping others. So once I understood that concept through personal development, reading the books, reading the success books, and working on my mind and meditating every single day, you start to think about things in a different way. You think about creating things that could serve other people, and obviously the byproduct of that, the money's going to come. So it was hard though. I mean, honestly, guys, from moving to this country in 2007 to Canada up into pretty much last year, I was flat broke. I've struggled, really have struggled. As a matter of fact, my girlfriend and I, when we formed Apex Physiques, we had to move back to her parents' house, and here's a 40-year-old man that really has this vision of this company, doing big things. But I had to eat humble pie and come back and move in with Jasmine's folks. And but that was the price that we had to pay, because we believed in our mission. We really believed in what we were doing was going to help others and serve a purpose. And you got to do things, unfortunately, that you don't want to do. And that was a price that we had to pay. So it's paying off. Absolutely. We're doing really, really well now. But there were many, many times, guys, that we just wanted to give up. There were so many times, guys, I just wanted to come back to England. I'm like, fuck this. Like, this is just too hard. I'm done. I'm just going to go back to England and find a full-time job, start working in the gym and start personal training again. But I read these books and they tell you to keep going. Do not give up. Have faith. And that's all I've been doing is I just keep growing my mind and keep studying and keep learning from other people that have what I want. And I believe everybody needs some type of a mentor or some type of coach in their corner to keep pushing them, to keep getting them out of your comfort zone in order for them to make a shift and to make the change.
If you don't mind us asking, who have been your biggest mentors recently?
The biggest mentors for me, I had one gentleman for 6 years, Bob Proctor. He was in the movie The Secret. He mentored me for 6 years. It was an absolute honor and privilege to work with him and to see how he operated and to fly on his private jet and to see that lifestyle. And it's having a taste of that is absolutely amazing. And I've had some other great mentors as well. A guy named Joe Arco, he's actually mentoring me right now. He's been amazing. He's the kind of guy that he's also building his brand, and he's the type of guy that he just points, aims, and shoots. And he figures it out along the way. So he's really got me out of my comfort zone and forced me to grow. So yeah, there's some other people that I have. Jim Rohn, who's obviously passed on. He's another mentor of mine. Darren Hardy's another one. There's so many guys, but physically, Bob Proctor and there's another gentleman, Joe Arco, is also a big inspiration to me.
With Apex Physique, who's the ideal client that you're really trying to focus your attention on?
It's an awesome question. I think I spent so many years helping physique athletes, and don't get me wrong, we still help physique athletes get on stage, because I think that's a great goal, to get yourself on stage, because you're going to get in the best shape of your life in the process.
Yeah.
So I would say 85% of our business is people that just want to feel good, that want abundance of energy, vitality, and want to wake up in the morning feeling good, and maybe fat loss, weight loss. I think that's our demographic. And then the 15% is the physique athletes. So to answer your question, absolutely is the general population.
Yeah, similar to us, yeah.
How did you come about meeting Lewis? I take it it's Lewis, right, that's running your podcast. But much like he's running ours, which is how we've been kind of reintroduced for a second time.
Oh, man, what a great guy he is. He sent me a gift yesterday, actually. He sent me a couple of bags with the persistence factor on it. I'm like, dude, talk about going the extra mile and giving value. He's such a great guy, and he makes us look professional, and that's what I love about him. But I met him through a gentleman named Vince Del Monte.
Oh, yeah. He's our business coach.
That's how we met him.
Oh, there you go. So I actually interviewed Vince about 3 weeks ago on my show. So Vince is like literally about an hour and a half drive from where I am. So we talk a lot. He seems to be doing some great things, and I love what he's about. And one thing I love about Vince, he doesn't care what people think. And he says that I might not look the part, but you can see he has passion, he has dedication, and he's committed to his goals, and he loves his family, and he's a man of faith, and I love that about the guy. So he's someone, again, I look up to too. So you could call him maybe a mentor as well.
Yeah, he's it's funny. That's how we met Lewis. So Vince is our business coach. Been working with him for 10 months or so.
Yeah.
10 months. And one of the masterminds, Akash, come across Lewis.
I remember in Toronto.
Yeah,
I was in Toronto last October. And I think
Oh man! Next time you guys come out, we're gonna have to meet up.
Yeah, sure.
And that's how I met Lewis. I met Lewis in Toronto, and then we got talking about a podcast. And then he helped us.
We ended up on his podcast, and then I met him in Tampa.
Yeah,
and then he's offered to. He helps us with our podcast. We help him with coaching and training, and he just makes the whole process, as you know, so easy. You know, I don't know if you've tried uploading episodes yourself, but it's quite long-winded.
Oh yeah, I don't want to even go down that road. You know, when I originally got into it, when I was just looking for information, even before I met Lewis, I was looking on YouTube and I was watching all these videos, how to set up a successful podcast, and everyone had different thoughts and beliefs about how to set up a podcast, and it was so confusing. I said to my girlfriend, I'm not going to do this. This is freaking hard. And luckily, I met. How did I get in touch with Lewis? I actually can't remember now, but Lewis has made it so simple that anybody could set up their own podcast. But the thing about him, what I love about him, he's always trying to give value and how we can make things better.
Yeah.
And I love that about the guy. So he's going to be huge in the podcasting industry. He already is. I mean, he's definitely someone that really needs to be put on a pedestal because he's doing great work.
Let's just give him a quick plug. Actually, we don't do plugs very often. But so basically, the guy that we're referring to is who does Troy's podcast. He looks after our podcast. Everybody that's listened to this for this is the 32nd episode now.
32nd, yeah.
Congratulations, you guys! It's amazing.
Lewis is the man behind it, so he makes it so easy. So basically, right now, I'm recording this through a software called Zoom. That then just downloads a quick file. After the show, I'm just being really transparent here. I'm going to get Troy's best photo of him that he wants us to use. And all I do is I stick that in a Dropbox folder for Lewis. And Lewis and his team go in, they tidy up the audio, they sharpen the sound quality, they add an intro to it, they plaster over, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all those places. I don't even know exactly where it's at the moment. They take care of all that. They listen to the whole episode and they break down minute by minute what happens at each point, the subjects covered. They piece together our social media images. It's seamless. And it's perfect. I uploaded maybe our first 7 episodes. I got there, but it was tough. Yeah. And the episodes, they didn't come out anywhere near as clear and as concise as they are now. So
he makes us look good.
He does, yeah. So for anybody listening to this, if you are wanting to launch your own podcast, just drop either myself or Akash or even the RNT page, just a direct message, and I'll give you an intro to Lewis, and he'll talk you step by step on how to work with him, and he just makes it easy. It's a no-brainer. If you value your time, you're happy to spend a little bit of money each month because you value your time, just bite the bullet and work with Lewis.
Hey, you know what, Adam? You can always, make more money, but you can't make more time, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, I like that. Perfect. Yeah. What does a typical day look like for you right now? Talk us through, now that you're not competing at the moment, you're doing the podcasting, you're building Apex physiques, you're still training, but not to the, the bodybuilding level. Just talk us through like morning, afternoon, evening. How's it looking?
By the way, it's extremely hard to turn off that switch when you've been a pro bodybuilder and that's all you know. So when I go to the gym, I'm like, I have this laser focus. Don't talk to me. And I'm like, what are you doing, Troy? What the hell? Like, relax, chill out, man. Like, you're not a bodybuilder anymore. You can go to the gym and have some fun. So Jasmine reminds me of that. She tells me to chill out, stop being an arrogant prick and relax and breathe. And now I go in the gym and I have fun and I kind of play around and, I don't do the big compounds anymore. I kind of do, kind of a lot of John Meadows training and a little bit of, I love Mark Dugdale, the way he trains. So I kind of really having a lot of fun, adding a lot of variety to my training. So, and I forgot your question. I went off on a tangent there. I do that a lot. Sorry, guys.
No, just the day looking for you. So like,
all right, yeah.
Do you get up? Do you have breakfast? Do you fast? What time do you train? How's like today? How's today looking for you?
Yeah, so like every morning I get up around anywhere between 4:30 to 5. And that's pretty much 6 days a week. I always sleep in on Sundays, but yeah, 4:30 to 5. I feel like that's when I'm more productive and I'm very creative at that time. So I always read first. I always have my water and my greens, and I always do my apple cider vinegar and glutamine. And then I'll literally go in and read. Right now I'm reading a couple of books. I'm reading Steve Harvey's book right now. And I'm also reading a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza on the brain, which is amazing. And after I read, I will literally go and do my affirmations in front of the mirror, which is from Think and Grow Rich. I've been doing that since 2016, December 26th, when I started the affirmations, and I read them aloud in front of the mirror. And then once I do my affirmation, I literally go and meditate for anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. Then my day starts pretty much. And then usually I'll go straight to the gym. Sometimes I'll train fasted, or sometimes I'll have some breakfast. If I train not fasted, I usually train around 9 a.m., get home around 10 because we have a gym across the road. And then literally I would say around 9 or 10 o'clock a.m. during the morning, that's when our day really, really starts. So we start answering emails, get back to clients, or reach out to potential clients. And we have our own podcast with the Apex, called the Apex Life, on Anchor. So we do a lot of Apex podcasts for our clients, where we showcase our clients, give them a platform to speak, which has been amazing because it raises their self-confidence and it gives them, more self-worth, so to speak. So we do that as well. But yeah, we spend a lot of days working on programs very similar to what you guys do, working on nutrition programs and training programs. And we do a ton of mindset counseling as well. So we do like 45-minute mindset counseling with some of our clients that maybe have some limiting beliefs or some hurdles, or they're self-sabotaging. We sit down with them and we do it on Skype. And we got clients literally all over the place now: Canada, England, North America, obviously America. We've got people out in Europe, Germany. We've got people out in Spain. We've got people out in Finland. I've got a page called the Governor page now as well, which seems to be doing really, really well. It's basically for men. And I just basically do videos every single day. I do live videos and training content, nutritional content. And the big component is the mindset. So I do a lot of stuff on mindset to help these guys become better men, to become better fathers, to become better husbands, and to really go after their passions and to not settle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
I call that the Governor page. GUV'_NA, Governor.
Governor, I like it.
Bit of English there.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, got to keep it there.
Yeah, you're still doing well. You're flying the flag out there, I can tell.
I have to.
You started speaking more and more English as this podcast has gone on.
I know, it's crazy, eh?
I even had a mate just now.
I know. Normally, when I'm in Canada, I'm all about A. Like they say A a lot, so I even pronounce that so much. So it's so interesting how you surround yourself with. So everyone who I speak to from England, they'll go to me, "Oh my God, when I heard you on this video, your voice changed. But as soon as you talk to me again, the old Cockney accent comes back again. Yeah. The Hackney Cockney accent, the East End of London accent comes back."
What's next for Troy Brown?
Honestly, you know what? I'm just taking it day by day. I wake up every morning grateful to be alive. I think it's a great time to be alive right now, guys, with everything that we have at our disposal. YouTube, Instagram. What they're doing on Instagram right now, if you're a business owner, is absolutely incredible. I mean, there's no excuses. I think the only excuse is that if you're afraid to speak, you got to get over that hurdle and maybe start practicing and get out your comfort zone. So I try and do live videos, go live on Instagram and Facebook pretty much on a daily basis, because I know I can reach more people. And I think the old way of personal training, where we work one-to-one, there's only one of you and there's only 24 hours in a day, so you're sort of capped when it comes to an income. So now you've got social media. It's a huge level playing field for everybody now. So YouTube, I think, is huge. It's something that I haven't really attacked yet. So for me now, I'm just in the position of blowing up my YouTube channel. I'm working with a guy out here in Canada that's going to help me. And we're really going to be leveraging a lot of the Governor principles. So a Governor is also it's a training principle, the high intensity principles that I learned from Dorian.
Yep.
And I kind of put my own little spin on it. So we're going to be doing a muscle camp, in the next couple of months, my first muscle camp. So I'm looking to really promote that. So I've got some cool things happening. And I'm still in the process of writing my book, and it's still a work in progress. But it's just very similar to what I'm talking about in the persistence factor, about sharing stories of, trials and tribulations and my journey so far, talking about the sport of bodybuilding and where it took me and to where I am now, sort of thing.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man.
Let's go into 3 rapid fire questions. So
I like this. This is fun.
Number 1, you're back dieting, you're chasing your pro card. Big H gives you a free meal this Friday night. Tonight, what'd you go for?
Pizza, man.
Pizza.
He did that to me, many Britons. Many nationals we did. I remember him giving me a pizza the day of the show. And I remember 2005, actually, he sent me to pizza. He said, go and have a 12-inch pizza. And I'm like, what? Go and have a 12-inch pizza. I said, I trust you, Harold. I never literally, I always do exactly what he says. I don't deviate from the program. So I remember eating this pizza and every 5 minutes going into the washroom, checking my abs to see if they're still there. And then he was with me and he had to look at me. He went, all right, now go and have a Ben & Jerry's tub of ice cream. So I got that down me as well. So definitely, I would say pizza and Ben & Jerry's. That was our stable foods back in the day.
Toronto or London?
London, man.
London. Yeah.
London. Even though, don't get me wrong, guy, I love Canada. But London is special. There's you can't put your finger on it. There's it's so much history there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Last one. Who should we interview next?
Anyone.
Don't have to be in the fitness niche. They could be anything: mindset, fitness, business. Whoever.
I think the first person that just popped in my head was Ben Pekulski. I just had him on 2 weeks ago, and dudes, like, oh my god, like the guy just is on another level. I mean, he's so open and transparent about his story as a bodybuilder and what he's done and to where he is now. He's completely done a 180. Yeah. He's not anti-bodybuilding, but he's living his life on this holistic approach of health and vitality and making his brain more sharp and to becoming this person of integrity and serving others. So he would be a great person to have on your show. Like, he crushed it. So I can't wait for the episode to come out on the persistence factor. I'm trying to get it out in the next couple of weeks. So fingers crossed, should be ready to go.
Perfect. Awesome. Let's wrap this up by letting our listeners know where they can find you. So where can they find Apex Physique? And give us the details of your podcast, The Persistence Factor.
Absolutely. Where
can they find it?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for allowing me to, plug my business. So the business is called Apex Physiques, and we have a website called apexphysiques.ca. We also have an Instagram page called The Apex Life. And regarding the podcast, it's on iTunes, The Persistence Factor, and you'll find it. I'm at episode number 8 now. So it's only been a couple of months since I've been working on it, but it seems to be getting a little bit of traction now. So if anybody has a chance to listen to it, ratings and reviews, please. That would be great. The goal is the goal for me, it's a scary goal, guys, is to have the Persistence Factor as the #1 podcast in Canada. That's the goal.
Okay. I like it. Okay. Let's help you with that.
Oh, appreciate it, guys.
Comments. Yeah. So listeners, listen in, check out Troy's podcast. And much like you hopefully did with our one, and if you haven't done, get to it. Hit us a 5-star rating, hit subscribe, leave a comment on it, telling us how great we are. And go do the same on Troy's as well. So Troy, thank you very much for giving us your time. It's been great to kind of reconnect with you. As I said, before we started recording, I first met you at the Forest Gym, which I have covered on the podcast, but the bit I didn't cover is that Troy was literally like maybe 2 weeks out or so from a show. So he was pretty kind of delirious, low carb, tired. He managed to shake my hand. We had a brief chat, but I could tell that he was in there to work and then eat afterwards pretty rapidly. So it's really cool to chat with you again and getting your insights on everything.
Likewise, and thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor and a privilege to be on your show, and you guys are doing great things. Keep up the amazing work you're doing, and I'll be definitely spreading the word out here in Canada about what you guys are doing. I'm going to get more and more people out here in Canada to subscribe and listen to your podcasts.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
My pleasure.
You. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And I'll reach out and get you guys on my show, okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Troy.